Imagine a scene of calculated arrogance meeting quiet, unwavering justice. Into Judge Frank Caprio's courtroom strides a man named Alex Petro, his every movement radiating a profound self-assurance that borders on contempt for the proceedings. He's a portrait of manufactured success, a meticulously tailored suit that likely costs more than the average person's monthly rent, a designer watch that catches the light with every dismissive gesture, and the lingering swagger of a man who has always believed he is the smartest person in any room. At 35, this Eastern European immigrant has carved out a life in Los Angeles built on a foundation of charm and deceit, and the traffic violations that have brought him here today, driving without a license, presenting fraudulent insurance, feel like nothing more than a minor administrative hurdle. He expects a fine, a slap on the wrist, and to be back on the road in his luxury car before lunch. But as Judge Caprio, a man renowned for his empathy and sharp intuition, begins to thumb through the file, his brow furrows. A simple traffic case begins to unravel, revealing threads that lead not to a simple mistake, but to a dark and deliberate pattern of predatory behavior. This isn't about paperwork. It's about a lonely elderly woman who placed her trust in the wrong hands. It's about a predator who saw vulnerability not as a reason for compassion, but as a business opportunity. This is a story of exploitation, masterfully disguised by a charming accent and a winning smile. The true nature of the case becomes chillingly clear when that elderly woman is called to the stand. Her voice, fragile and trembling, recounts a tale of betrayal that silences the entire courtroom, a story of how Alex Petro systematically dismantled her life from the inside out. In that moment, everyone present realizes they are witnessing something profound, the implosion of a con artist, brought down by the very arrogance that fueled his crimes. It's a stark reminder of why predators who prey on the elderly deserve no leniency, and how the wheels of justice, especially in Judge Caprio's court, can turn with swift and devastating force. By the end of this account, a confident smirk will have vanished, a luxury car will be seized, and a victim, betrayed by someone she regarded as family, will finally find her voice and her justice. The entire affair poses a fundamental question. What truly happens when a master manipulator, a man who lives by the lie, comes face to face with a judge who can see through every single one? Alex Petro was about to receive his answer. The scene was set on a Tuesday morning at 10:15 a.m. in the Providence Municipal Court. The bailiff's voice cut through the low murmur of the room. Alex Petro, driving without a valid license, fraudulent insurance documentation. From the gallery, the man himself rose and moved toward the podium with the unhurried grace of a CEO entering a boardroom he owns. The navy suit was flawless, the white shirt impossibly crisp, and the expensive leather shoes clicked with an assertive rhythm on the courtroom floor. His dark hair was coiffed to perfection, and the glint of a Rolex on his wrist was a deliberate punctuation mark to his aura of success. Everything about him was designed to communicate wealth and confidence, yet, beneath it all, a keen observer might notice a subtle dissonance, a smile that never quite warmed his eyes, a practiced casualness that was profoundly out of place in a hall of justice. Judge Caprio looked up from the documents before him, his expression a careful mask of neutrality. "Good morning, Mr. Petro." "Good morning, Your Honor," Alex replied, his Eastern European accent polished smooth by years spent in America. The judge's gaze dropped back to the file, his expression growing more serious with each page he turned. "Mr. Petro, you're cited for operating a vehicle without a valid driver's license and presenting fraudulent insurance documentation to the arresting officer. Can you explain what happened?" Alex's smile was a well-rehearsed tool, easy and disarming. "Your Honor, it's all just a regrettable misunderstanding. My license renewal was unfortunately delayed due to some complex paperwork issues with immigration, and as for the insurance, there was a simple communication error with my provider. A crossed wire, you might say." "A communication error?" the judge echoed, his eyes lifting to meet Alex's. "Yes, Your Honor. You know how these large companies can be. Documents get misplaced, systems fail to update correctly. There was absolutely nothing malicious intended on my part." Judge Caprio's eyes narrowed almost imperceptibly. He had dealt with countless defendants, and something about this man's frictionless explanations set his internal alarms ringing. "Mr. Petro, this report states that you've been driving without a valid license for 8 months. That's a very long time for a simple paperwork delay. That looks less like a delay and more like a deliberate pattern of behavior." Alex's smile tightened at the edges. the first sign of a crack in the veneer. Your Honor, I assure you I've been actively trying to resolve it. The DMV, they can make things incredibly complicated, especially for immigrants. Judge Caprio leaned forward slightly, his voice firm but even. Mr. Petro, I am the son of an Italian immigrant. I have a deep and personal understanding of immigration challenges. But driving without a license for 8 consecutive months isn't an immigration challenge. It's a choice. The charming facade faltered for another fraction of a second before Alex regrouped. Of course, Your Honor. I understand, and I take full responsibility for my oversight. But Judge Caprio was already moving on, pulling another document from the stack. Mr. Petro, there's something else in this file that I need to understand. The vehicle you were driving, a 2023 BMW 7 Series, is registered to another individual, a Mrs. Dorothy Walsh, age 78. Can you explain that connection? She's my landlady, Your Honor, Alex answered smoothly. She's a dear friend, and she generously allows me to use her car. She allows you to use her $70,000 luxury car, the judge clarified, his tone laced with a new layer of skepticism. She is an exceptionally generous woman, Your Honor. As I said, we have a very good relationship. Judge Caprio's instincts, honed over decades on the bench, were now screaming that something was deeply wrong. He continued to dig through the file. Mr. Petro, I'm also seeing some additional documents here. Employment records, wage complaints filed against you. What is it that you do for a living? I'm a caregiver, Your Honor, Alex stated, the words dripping with manufactured sincerity. I provide assistance to elderly people with their daily tasks, driving them to appointments, that sort of thing. And Mrs. Walsh is one of your clients? She was, Your Honor. At this point, she's much more like family to me. The way he uttered the word family with such casual, possessive ease made Judge Caprio's jaw tighten. It sounded less like affection and more like an acquisition. Mr. Petro, the judge said, his voice now carrying a distinct edge. I'm going to ask Mrs. Walsh to come forward. She is listed as a witness in this case. For the first time, a flicker of genuine panic crossed Alex's face. His confidence wavered. Your Honor, with all due respect, that's not necessary. Mrs. Walsh is elderly, and she gets confused sometimes. She is here, Mr. Petro, and the court will determine if she is competent to testify. Mrs. Walsh, please approach the stand. The call to action was a silent testament to the belief that elder abuse is one of the most heinous crimes imaginable. From the back of the courtroom, a small, elderly woman began to make her way forward, her movements slow and deliberate. She stood barely 5 feet tall, a thin, frail figure in a simple dress that had clearly seen better days. Her hands trembled as they gripped the handles of her walker, but her eyes, though filled with fear, held a clear, resolute light. Judge Caprio's voice softened, the steel from his tone melting away into gentle reassurance. Mrs. Walsh, thank you for coming today. I know this must be very difficult for you. Can you please tell me about your relationship with Mr. Petro? Dorothy Walsh's voice was as fragile as her frame, a soft, trembling whisper. He came to me 2 years ago. He was sent by an agency. He was just supposed to help me with my groceries and drive me to my doctor's appointments. My husband had just passed away, and I needed the help. And did he provide that help? The judge asked kindly. At first, yes, she said, her gaze distant. He was so charming, so very attentive. He told me I reminded him of his grandmother back in Ukraine. He said he wanted to take care of me, to look after me. That sounds very nice, the judge prompted. Dorothy's voice broke, and a tear traced a path down her wrinkled cheek. That's what I thought too. Your Honor, I trusted him completely. I treated him like the grandson I never had. What changed, Mrs. Walsh? After about 6 months, she continued, her voice gaining a little strength from the painful memory. He told me he needed my help. He said his apartment building was being sold and he was going to be homeless. I have a spare bedroom, so I offered it to him. He promised he would pay rent. And did he? The first month, he did. After that, there was always an excuse. A problem with his bank, a client who was late with a payment, always some plausible story. I didn't push him for it because he was helping me so much around the house. Judge Caprio asked his next question with careful deliberation. Mrs. Walsh, can you tell me how Mr. Petro came to be driving your car? Dorothy paused to wipe her eyes with a tissue. He told me his car had broken down and was going to cost a fortune to fix. He said he needed my car to get to his other clients, so he could earn the money to pay me the rent he owed me. I felt guilty. He was living in my house, and I was making him owe me money. So, I said he could use my car, just temporarily. And when was that, Mrs. Walsh? About a year ago, Your Honor. A year ago, the judge repeated, letting the words hang in the air. And he is still using it? Yes, Your Honor. He always says he's still working on getting his car fixed, but I never see him working on it. And he never lets me have my car back, not even when I have my own doctor's appointments. He drives me, but only when he feels like it, when it's convenient for him. Judge Caprio's expression had become a grim mask of controlled anger. Mrs. Walsh, there are documents in this file which appear to show that you signed over the title of your car to Mr. Petro. Do you recall signing that document? Dorothy looked utterly confused and frightened. He had me sign a lot of papers. He was always bringing papers for me to sign. He said they were for the insurance or for emergencies. He told me it would help me, that if something ever happened to me, he could take care of things for me. Did you understand at any point that you were signing over the legal ownership of your automobile? No, Your Honor, she whispered, shaking her head. I didn't understand that at all. My eyesight, it isn't what it used to be. He would just point to a line and tell me where to sign, and I trusted him. From his podium, Alex Petro spoke up, his voice once again attempting that smooth, reasonable tone. Your Honor, if I may, Mrs. Walsh wanted me to have the car. She was concerned about her estate planning and wanted to simplify things. Judge Caprio's voice cut through the air like a razor. Mr. Petro, you will have your turn to speak. Right now, Mrs. Walsh is testifying. He turned his attention back to the trembling woman on the stand. Mrs. Walsh, were there other documents Mr. Petro had you sign? Yes, Your Honor. There were papers about my house and papers about my bank accounts. He always said the same thing, that it was all to help me, to make sure I was protected. The judge pulled out another set of documents, his movements sharp and precise. Mrs. Walsh, according to these records, you also signed a power of attorney, giving Mr. Petro complete legal control over all of your financial decisions. Do you remember signing that? He said it was just in case I got sick, Your Honor. In case I was ever in a position where I couldn't make decisions for myself. He said it was just a safety measure, just to protect me. And has he made use of that power of attorney? Dorothy's voice became even smaller, barely audible. I think so, Your Honor. My bank accounts. They're almost empty now. I used to have a good amount of savings, from when my husband passed. Now, there's barely anything left. Have you asked Mr. Petro about this? Yes, Your Honor. He just says that I've been spending more money than I realize. He says the money went to bills, to the rent that I forgave, to repairs for the car. But I don't remember spending that much money. And I'm scared, Your Honor. I'm so scared that he's going to take my house too. The fury in Judge Caprio's eyes was a palpable force, yet his voice remained gentle and patient when he spoke to Dorothy. Mrs. Walsh, why didn't you report this to anyone sooner? Because I was ashamed, she confessed, the words choked with emotion. I was so ashamed that I let someone fool me so completely. Ashamed that I trusted the wrong person. And I was scared. Mr. Petro. He could be so kind sometimes, but other times, when I would ask him questions about the money, he would get angry. He was never violent, but he was intimidating. I'm 78 years old and I'm all alone. I just didn't know what to do. Judge Caprio turned his gaze to Alex Petro, and all the warmth instantly vanished from his voice, replaced by cold, hard steel. Mr. Petro, I have heard Mrs. Walsh's testimony. Now, I would like to hear your explanation, and I advise you. I want the truth. Alex struggled to maintain his composure, but the calculation was visible in his eyes as he chose his words. Your Honor, Mrs. Walsh is a very sweet lady, but she is elderly, and as I mentioned, she sometimes gets confused. Everything I did, every single action, was to help her. Stop, Judge Caprio commanded, his voice sharp. Just stop, right there. Mrs. Walsh is not confused. She is frightened. There is a profound difference. Your Honor, with all due respect, I have cared for her for 2 years. You have exploited her for 2 years, the judge corrected him. Let's be accurate, Your Honor. That's not fair. What's not fair, Mr. Petro? The judge retorted, his voice rising, is taking advantage of a vulnerable, lonely, elderly woman who trusted you implicitly. What's not fair is manipulating her into signing over her life's assets while you were pretending to care for her. He picked up a sheaf of papers. Let's go through this systematically, shall we? You had Mrs. Walsh sign over the title to her car. What was your stated intention for that? Alex's answer was slick. She wanted to make sure I could handle things if something happened to her. She was worried about being a burden to anyone. That's a very interesting explanation because Mrs. Walsh just testified under oath that she had no idea she was signing over her car. She believed she was signing insurance paperwork. She may not remember correctly, Your Honor. She is 78. Her memory seems perfectly fine to me, Judge Caprio countered. Yours, on the other hand, seems to be conveniently selective. The judge continued his relentless dissection of the case. You also had her sign a power of attorney, giving you total financial control over her accounts, and according to these bank records, her savings have plummeted from $93,000 to less than $4,000 in the past year. Where did that money go, Mr. Petro? To her care, Your Honor. Care. To bills, household expenses, home repairs. There are no records of any significant home repairs, no major medical expenses, and no large bills. What there are, however, are records of steady cash withdrawals that happen to coincide with a series of luxury purchases you've made, a new wardrobe, expensive dinners, the high-cost insurance on that BMW you've been driving. Shall I continue? Alex Petro's facade was now cracking under the pressure. Your Honor, I deserve to be compensated for my time and my efforts. Compensated? The judge thundered. You were living rent-free in her home. You were supposed to be paying her rent, not the other way around. She forgave my rent, Alex insisted. She forgave it because you manipulated her into it. You made her feel guilty for expecting payment for her own property while you were supposedly helping her out of the kindness of your heart. Judge Caprio's voice now filled the courtroom. Mr. Petro, you are a predator. You deliberately targeted a vulnerable elderly woman. You gained her trust by pretending to care for her. You isolated her by making yourself indispensable in her life, and then you systematically began to steal her car, her savings, and you very nearly stole her home. You are a disgrace. Your Honor, I object to that characterization, Alex stammered. Your objection is noted and it is overruled. Now, let me ask you a direct question. Did Mrs. Walsh knowingly and voluntarily sign over her assets to you? Alex hesitated, his mind racing to find an escape route. She signed the documents, Your Honor. That is not what I asked you. Did she understand the full and complete nature of what she was signing? I explained them to her in detail, he lied, in words that an elderly woman with failing eyesight and limited legal knowledge could fully comprehend. Another hesitation. I gave her the general idea. The general idea, Judge Caprio repeated with disgust. So you admit that you did not fully and explicitly explain to her that she was signing away her car, her financial control, and her life savings? Alex's smooth demeanor was completely gone, replaced by raw defensiveness. Your Honor, she trusted me to make good decisions for her. She trusted you, the judge agreed, his voice dropping to a low, intense growl, and you betrayed that trust, systematically and completely. The courtroom was silent, captivated by the unfolding drama, a testament to the moments when predators are exposed and their victims finally get justice. Judge Caprio took a moment to compose himself, his anger a tightly coiled spring. Mr. Petro, let me explain something to you. This court typically handles minor traffic violations. That is what you were originally cited for today. But what I have uncovered in this file and through testimony this morning goes far, far beyond traffic violations. Your Honor, I'm not finished explaining. You came into this courtroom today brimming with confidence, smiling, acting as though these charges were nothing more than minor inconveniences. You clearly believed you would pay a small fine and then return to your life of exploiting Mrs. Walsh. That, Mr. Petro, is not what is going to happen. Judge Caprio began issuing his rulings, each one a hammer blow to Alex Petro's carefully constructed world. First, the BMW 7 Series, which is legally registered in Mrs. Walsh's name and which you have been driving as your own, is hereby seized effective immediately. The title transfer you coerced from Mrs. Walsh is declared null and void, as it was obtained through fraud and undue influence. Alex's face went white with shock. Your Honor, that's my car. That is Mrs. Walsh's car, the judge corrected him sternly, and she is getting it back today. But Your Honor, I need that car for my work. You should have thought about that before you stole it from a 78-year-old woman. Judge Caprio continued, his voice unwavering. Second, the power of attorney that you deceitfully obtained from Mrs. Walsh is hereby revoked, effective immediately. You no longer have any legal authority over her finances, her property, or any of her personal decisions. Your Honor, she wanted me to have that authority, Alex pleaded. She wanted someone she trusted to help her, and you grotesquely abused that trust. The authority is revoked. Third, I am referring this entire case to the district attorney's office for a full criminal investigation into charges of elder abuse, financial exploitation, and fraud. What you have done to Mrs. Walsh is not just unethical, Mr. Petro. It is criminal. Alex desperately tried to regain some semblance of control. Your Honor, this is a severe overreaction. Mrs. Walsh and I simply have a misunderstanding that we can work out privately. There is no misunderstanding here, Mr. Petro. There is theft, there is exploitation, and there is elder abuse. Those are crimes, not misunderstandings. The judge's voice grew even more severe. Fourth, you are ordered to immediately vacate Mrs. Walsh's property. You have 48 hours to remove your personal belongings. If you are still on the premises after that time, you will be removed by the police and charged with criminal trespassing. Your Honor, where am I supposed to go? Alex asked, panic setting in. That is no longer my concern, nor is it Mrs. Walsh's. You're a resourceful man, Mr. Petro. You'll figure it out, just like you figured out how to manipulate a trusting 78-year-old woman out of her life savings. Fifth, regarding Mrs. Walsh's depleted bank accounts, you are ordered to provide a full and complete accounting of every single penny you withdrew, transferred, or spent from her accounts. The district attorney will be reviewing those records very closely as part of their criminal investigation. Alex was visibly panicking now, the confident man who had entered the courtroom now a shattered wreck. Your Honor, I don't have that money anymore. It's gone. Then you're in very serious trouble, aren't you? Judge Caprio said, delivering the final, crushing blow. Sixth, any and all of Mrs. Walsh's supposed debts to you, the money you claim you spent on her behalf, the back rent you claim she forgave, all of it is hereby declared null and void. Mrs. Walsh owes you absolutely nothing. In fact, you owe her approximately $89,000, plus interest. Your Honor, I can't possibly pay that. Then you will have to deal with the civil courts and, quite possibly, prison, but you will not be taking one more penny from Mrs. Walsh. Judge Caprio then turned his attention to Dorothy Walsh, his voice once again becoming a beacon of gentleness and compassion. Mrs. Walsh, I am so very sorry that this happened to you. You did nothing wrong. You were kind to someone who you thought needed help, and he exploited that kindness. That is on him, not on you. Dorothy was crying softly, but these were tears of relief, not despair. Thank you, Your Honor. I just want my car back, and I want him out of my house. You will get both, the judge assured her. And Mrs. Walsh, the court is also referring you to elder advocacy services. They will help you secure your home, work on recovering your assets, and put measures in place to ensure this can never happen to you again. Thank you, Your Honor, she whispered. Judge Caprio then addressed the entire courtroom, his voice filled with a controlled and righteous fury. Ladies and gentlemen, what you have witnessed here today is a textbook case of elder abuse. It is one of the most insidious and despicable crimes because it targets the most vulnerable members of our society. It targets elderly people who are lonely, who need help, and who want to believe that people are fundamentally good. Mr. Petro represents a specific type of predator that seeks out the elderly. They are charming, they are helpful, they make themselves indispensable, and then, once they have gained total trust, they systematically strip away everything their victims have, all while maintaining a sickening facade of care and affection. He looked directly at Alex, his eyes burning with contempt. "Mr. Petro, you walked into this courtroom today because you thought you were smarter than everyone else. You thought you had gotten away with it. You believed that an elderly woman either wouldn't be believed, wouldn't have the strength to fight back, or would be too ashamed to ever speak up. You were wrong on all counts." Alex stood silently, utterly defeated. "You asked Mrs. Walsh to trust you, and she did. Trust is a privilege, Mr. Petro. It is not a tool to be used. It is not a weapon to be wielded. It is not something you manipulate for personal gain. Trust is sacred, especially when it is given by someone in a vulnerable position." The judge's final words were devastating in their simplicity and power. "You have destroyed that trust. You have stolen from someone who treated you like family. And today, you are learning the true cost of that betrayal." He picked up his gavel. "All rulings are effective immediately. Mr. Petro, you are to surrender the keys to the BMW to the bailiff right now. Mrs. Walsh's car will be returned to her this afternoon." With a shaking hand, Alex reluctantly pulled the keys from his pocket and handed them over. "You have 48 hours to vacate Mrs. Walsh's property. The district attorney's office will be contacting you shortly regarding pending criminal charges. This court is adjourned." The gavel fell with a loud, definitive crack. As Alex Petro was escorted out of the courtroom, no longer confident, no longer smiling, no longer in control, Dorothy Walsh was surrounded by court advocates who immediately began the process of helping her put her life back together. An older man from the gallery approached the bench. "Your Honor," he said quietly, "my own mother went through something very similar. She lost everything to a man just like him. Thank you for protecting Mrs. Walsh." Judge Caprio nodded solemnly. "I wish I could protect them all. But at least today, one predator has been stopped." Alex Petro had walked into court a smiling predator, and he left with his car seized, criminal charges looming, and no place to live. Dorothy Walsh had walked in a frightened victim, and she left with her car returned, her home secured, and her dignity restored. Judge Frank Caprio proved once again that some crimes deserve absolutely no mercy, that the exploitation of the elderly is an unforgivable sin, and that a trust so violently violated will, in the end, be avenged. This is precisely what happens when a predator meets real justice, when superficial charm can no longer overcome cold, hard evidence, and when the quiet courage of one elderly woman is enough to expose a con artist for the monster he truly is.